move on to this next exercise. It's going to be cross-picking. And that'll lead us into our tune today, since there was some cross-picking involved with that. And we're also going to be moving chords around. So this is all an exercise leading up to practicing the tune. So you might be asking yourself, what is cross-picking? You may have heard of flat picking, but what is cross-picking? Well, let's talk about flat picking for a second. Strumming is when we're basically hitting all 3 strings at once, or 4 strings, or 5 strings at once. That's a strum. Everything's happening at one time. Flat picking is 1 note at a time, 1 string at a time. That's flat picking, 1 note at a time. Fiddle tunes, stuff like that. Cross picking really applies more to guitars than it does dulcimers. It applies to that because cross picking means you're going to be crossing over a string to get to another string. And that's really intricate for guitars because you've got 6 strings. So sometimes you're going from string 1 to string 5, string 2 to string 6, string 6 to string 3, and you're crossing over something in the middle. You're hopping around like that. With mountain dulcimers, we got one option: bass to melody, melody to bass. That's all. We're going to cross over that middle string. But oftentimes we get ourselves in these routines where we roll. And a roll is where we're arpeggiating and we're going in one direction or the other, like this. Melody to bass, or bass to melody. This is flat picking, and I'm just arpeggiating through those 3 strings. Cross picking would be me hopping over that middle string and then coming back somewhere else. That puts a different sound to it, a different rhythm to it. And you can get all kinds of neat little sequences in there of arpeggios by doing the cross picking. So there are 4 different exercises here. Each one of the exercises is 8 measures long. So 2 lines. Those first 2 lines is one exercise. The next 2 lines on page 1 are another exercise. And then we've got 2 more exercises on page 2. This is just getting in the habit of crossing over. Now let's say you're playing a tune and you're playing chords behind somebody. So you're like da 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 dee bum bum da 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 dum da dum bum dum ba dum bum. But you want to do something really nice, and the person's playing something really pretty. So you want to arpeggio through those chords. So oftentimes, because we've got 3 strings, we get ourselves stuck in a loop of 3s. It feels natural, but that's more 3/4 time, 6/8 time, 12/8 time. You want to put 1 more note in there to square out the measure, so we've got 4 beats instead of 3 beats. So you want to come back to one of the other strings, and there are a lot of different ways of doing that. You could go accenting the bass, or accenting the melody, going to the middle, which is great if you want to do something that sounds like time passing. So there are a lot of different ways you can do it. And these patterns are going to do is help you develop your muscle memory for creating really interesting patterns. And then I'll show you some of what you can do with them. What we're doing here is we're going to be moving basically an L-shaped chord up the fretboard, starting with our 0-0-2, going to a 1-1-3, 2-2-4, 3-3-5, 4-4-6.5, 5-5-7, our weird little diminished chords, 6.5, 6-8, and then 7-7-9. So the first one is only going to be changing the top of the L. We're not going to touch the bass string. We're going to pick it, but we're not going to fret it. And we're not going to touch or pick, or we're going to pick it, but we're not going to fret the middle string. We're just going to move the melody string. And this first exercise sounds like this. Bless you. All right. So let's go ahead and play that. This rhythm, by the way, is not going to change for the first 3 exercises. So once you get it into your hand, and you'll feel it, you'll feel like you're not reading the rhythm so much as you know it, and you're playing it, and you're just following along with the melody and where you put your finger on that. It's not going to change for 3, and really it doesn't change in the 4th. We just leave something out for a particular effect. So right now, just concentrate on the melody string, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, good. We will do that again. Here we go. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Let's go around again now. All right, good. Shake your hands out a little bit. I really appreciate you guys coming in 3 days before Fun Fest, where you know you're going to be playing till your fingers bleed. Coming in and putting extra wear and tear on your fingers the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that shows a dedication of a very high sort. I really appreciate you doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and do that one more time, and then we'll move on to the second exercise. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, good. I'll bring up now the question of, are we going to go out strum or are we going back and forth? Literally, it matters how fast you're going. If you think you've got enough time to come on back and go back out again, like we're doing right now, kind of slow, you could do this whole thing and not have to worry about double picking it. But if I were going a little bit faster, I would want to use alternating pick direction and go back and forth. So forth and so on. It's the urgency that makes the difference, but typically I say if we're playing 8 notes, you want to think about using back and forth. But we're going so slow right now, I don't think you have to worry about that. As you get faster though, you might want to start thinking about using the back and forth motion with the pick. And the question comes up sometimes, what side of the string do you approach it? Do you hit it from this side or do you hit it from that side? And the answer is, don't worry about it. If you're going alternating, boom, 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 you're automatically, as long as you keep that consistency of going this way, that way, this way, that way, you're going to be on the proper side of the string, wherever you need to be, because you can hit it from either side. What's more important is being consistent with this, because that can throw you off. If you suddenly find on the downbeat that you're in strumming when a measure before you came in as an out strum on the downbeat. And as long as there's a certain number of beats in a measure, you'll always reset and go the direction that you started off going in. There are exceptions for that. For example, let's say that, that you have a quarter note that comes in the middle, and maybe you hit that and then you still reverse and come back the other way. It's going to be a little lopsided in the middle of all those 8 notes, and suddenly you find yourself doing in strums on the downbeat, which at that point you could just go twice in one direction and reset yourself and get back on the right track again. All right, let's do the second exercise. So we've already moved the melody up the string. So now we are going to do that, and we're going to add on the middle string. So we'll start off with the 2, but when we pull up to 3, then we're going to go ahead and drop in on the first fret on the middle string, and then we're going to maintain that spacing as we go up, like this. Now, this is important because we're using this 6.5, this diminished chord. You are going to come up to 8 here, and you're going to be on 6 here. Sorry. Okay, so let's do that. And if you want to, in preparation for the next exercise, which is going to be the full L-shaped chord. No, actually, never mind. Scratch that. I didn't say it. All right, here we go. Second exercise. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Six and 8. Let's do that again. Go again. All right, stop, shake your hands out. Good, good, good. The spacing, even though the frets get a little closer together as we get higher up on the fretboard, the spacing is roughly about the same, because once again, we are basically moving an L-shaped chord. And so the spacing is about the same. It can be very daunting to look at a whole page full of arpeggios, and you're looking at rhythms and numbers are all spaced out. One way of figuring out what's going on is just to kind of look across the measure and see what changes. And if nothing changes, then get the sum of what's happening off of each of the strings. You can glance at it and go, oh, in this measure, all we've got is 1 on the middle string and 3 on the melody string. And if you know the rhythm, then you just get that info and don't drive yourself crazy trying to follow every single little arpeggio. Just kind of look across each line and go, what changes on this line? And if nothing changes, then take the first number that you see and then just hold it down and just think about the pattern. I'll do a lot of multi-part arrangements. We'll probably do a couple of those tomorrow. And to make things sound real pretty, I'll just have some arpeggios in the background. I'll pass them out to a beginning group and they'll all have heart attacks. They'll be like, what? How are we supposed to do that? It's like, no, that's easy. 0, 0, 0, 2, that's all you're doing. And they're like, oh, okay. It looks a lot worse than it actually is, but you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on there. Let's do that one more time. And I think you'll find that the L-shaped chord will be a lot easier because you've got context, more context for it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, good. Okay, now we're going to do our next one. This brings in the entire L shape. Now remember, our diminished chord is a weird little shape, 6.5, 6, 8. So when we get up there, make sure you alter the shape of your chord to match that 6.5 on the bass string, 6 on the middle string, and 8 on the melody string. And it's going to sound like this. Change the shape. Okay, not that fast, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Change the shape. All right, stop. Good, good, good. Take a second and look at that measure with that 6.5, 6, 8 in it, and play through it a couple of times just to start the muscle memory process. All right, let's go from the top of the third exercise. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Good. Last one does something a little weird. It's got a little pause in there, as you can see by the 8th rest. So we're going to end up playing the L-shaped move, but it's going to sound like this. You're taking that middle out of the equation. As far as I remember, I want to make sure I'm remembering that correctly. We're putting a rest on that middle string, which means we're not playing it. And that gives you a different feeling, a little bit of a different sensation there. Let's go ahead and play that one. The last exercise. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. All right, good. So, how to use something like that? I wouldn't use the same pattern throughout an entire song. Sometimes I would lead from the bass, sometimes I'd lead from the melody, depending on what the song calls for. If the song calls for the melody to be accentuated or accented, I would do some cross-picking and make sure I was back covering the melody. I do something like that when I play Hallelujah. So I make my way across and I come back just in time to get that melody note, and then I go back across and I come back around, get that melody note and go back across. But there's still some variations there based on what the song calls for. Other times I'll actually lead back from the bass as like a bass walk down. A good example of that would be Squire Wood's lamentation upon the refusal of his halfpence. It's a long title. It's a Turlock O'Carrollon too. So sometimes, whatever the song calls for, then you can lead over, do your arpeggios, keep it constant. But then if it leads to, oh, the bass is important here, it's doing a walk down, you shift that arpeggio to be a bass featured. And then when it becomes more about the melody, then you shift your arpeggio to do the melody. Let me think of another example here. Oh Holy Night does a couple of different things, but it's mainly melody. So forth and so on. So you change it subtly throughout the piece, not so drastically that it seems like you're doing a completely different backup, but enough to where you are paying attention to different elements of the music, whether it be the melody or the chords or the bass line or something else that comes in. You may change your picking style for a couple of measures and then go right back to your main arpeggio. It all depends on what the song is looking for. And if you serve the song, you don't have to do a lot of invention. You don't have to do a lot of thinking about what the song needs. The song will tell you exactly what it needs. This is where you put your fill in. This is where we do this, and so forth. So it's fun to have those tools in your toolbox. And I can tell you guys have got the muscle memory going on because I heard you start to speed up. Speeding up is the sign of, oh yeah, I got this. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. So it's starting to be in there. And if you find yourself absent-mindedly doing that while you're picking through some of your tunes at home, go with it. Because that means it's just dying to be utilized somehow and under your fingers. When you're doing it at home, take your time with it. Take it even slower than we have. And then when you're ready, take it in another direction. Any questions on cross-picking? All right. Take a look now at this tune. We are in DAD tuning for this. We are in the key of D, F sharp and C sharp. We are in 3/4 time. We are a waltz. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play it for you. I'm playing it from memory, so some fingerings may be a little bit different, but this is the essence of the tune. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play it. Thank you.
You're kind of a combination of full string and then some flat picking.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's just a good dynamic balance. And also, not written in here are some of what I'm doing, the little fill-in arpeggios, you know. Little things. Notice I'm doing those mainly on the bass string and on the middle string. I'm leaving the melody string alone because that's largely where the melody lives. And I don't want to add notes to the melody. And so any kind of fill-in I'm doing on the bass string and on the middle string. And since they're not written in here, it's not something you have to concern yourself with until you're ready, because otherwise, if you don't do those things, everything comes to a halt when the melody sustains for a long period of time. And typically that's going to be a clear note. Anything longer than 2 beats and everything really kind of chills out. You may want to keep it that way and keep it stark, or you might want to provide some more motion. Especially like in measure number 8, you know, we've got 5 beats there of the 101 chord. If you don't add something there, it could be, it could just put a halt on everything. So how I'm treating that, coming from the harmonic at 2, 3, 4, 5, measure 5. I add a little something in there. I don't change the chord, but I actually arpeggiate through it a bit more, and I kind of stay away from the melody on that, but that's good enough to kind of bounce back and forth and add a little something so it doesn't just go, you know, there's nothing going on there. So you can do, yeah, right? So you can just do anything you want to. When you feel comfortable and you feel this needs a little something, put whatever you want in there to pass the time, to keep things rolling. All right, let's go ahead and play through. And I'll holler out when we're changing this way and going that way and what have you. So to count us in, I'm going to count us in using 8-note subdivisions because we need to come in on the and of 2. That first quarter rest is 1. That little 8th rest is 2. That first actual note, that 0 in the middle string, is the and of 2. And then the next 2 8 notes are 3 and the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Bum, bum, bum. So when I count 1 and 2, bum, 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 and I'll just give us that. So we're giving us a beat and a half, 1 and 2. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3 harmonic and 2, 3, 1, 2. Two, 3. 1, 2, 3. Take the repeat. 2, 3 harmonic. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 2, 3. Second ending, 2, 3, 1, 2. First ending. Repeat. second ending. Second ending. .45 bottom row. All right, good. Thank you, thank you. And let's go. Okay, let me first of all explain what's happening. I pretty much leave the first page with just melody and the harmonies, the chords, and all that. As soon as we get into the second part, which begins 21, 22, 23, 24, measure 24, some of those additional notes there are place markers. They are rhythm place markers. Like right there at the beginning, at 21, 22, 23, at 24. That 0 on the bass string, that's a place marker. That's a rhythmic place marker. It's not melodic, but it's there to kind of keep things moving. Otherwise, things would kind of chill out way too much there. Place marker. That 5 right there is a place marker. The 4, 5 there, those are place markers. Those are just trying to keep things moving along, but notice they don't happen on the melody string. We want to avoid doing that on the melody string, otherwise it may complicate the melody. So those are written in there just so you know if you're explaining it to somebody else or whatever. Those are not melodies. Those are just keeping things rolling. The melody, for the most part, is really hanging out on the melody string. So if it's not a chord, it's going to be some sort of a partial arpeggio.
When you're chording, you don't ever want to arpeggiate on the melody.
Right. You can come back to the melody string if you've been hanging out with that arpeggio for a while. Like if you're holding this for like 2 measures, then I'd say down a ways a bit. After that melody note has decayed quite a bit, you can come back then to the melody string because it won't be confused as being part of the melody. It's taken a while. But if you're only going to be hanging out with it for a measure, then I would avoid picking the melody string again. But if you're going to be hanging out with it for a while, if I was going to be hanging out with it for a little bit, then I'd start coming over and pick the melody string as well. But because we're making such a quick transition there, we're only hanging out with it for a short while, then I'm just focusing on the bass and the middle string and not re-picking the melody string. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Let's go ahead and do it again. Here we go, from the top. Again, I'll give us 1 and 2. Bum, bum, bum. 1 and 2. 2, 3, harmonic, and 2, 3, 1, 2. 2, 3, harmonic. First inning, 2, 3, pick up notes. Repeats. 2, 3, harmonic. 2, 3, 1, 2. 2, 3, harmonic. Get ready for the second inning. And second ending, 2, 3, 1, 2. Repeat. Second ending. All right. Very nice. Thanks. Thank you.